Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome into the Rurouni Kenshin full red set breakdown. We've officially got all of the English cards from the Rurouni Kenshin set, so we're going to be diving into these, starting off with the red starter deck, and then we'll dive into the full red main set. So if you guys did want to skip to the main set, there'll be timestamps down below. Now, real quick, I did just want to talk about some cards that were cut and some brand new types of cards that we're getting in Rurouni Kenshin. So I guess first off, to talk about it, there's these brand new cards that we're getting that are... I had this idea in my head about something like this when the game first released, about sort of balancing the game so you didn't need so many zeros in your deck, and that's essentially what these cards are. So we've got these new 2-cost cards, 1 per color, and essentially what they say is if you have no cards on your field, reduce this card's required energy by 2 while in your hand. So rather than being a 2-cost, it actually costs 0 to play, just until you have 1 card on your field. So if you're generating just 1 energy on your field, you can't play this card, for example. Now, one of the reasons we're starting off with this in the red breakdown is there's a version of this card in blue, there's a version of this card in purple, and the red version of this card, the Yahiko card, did get cut. They did not release it in the English version. Now, this happened in the red set, funny enough, with an Asta card. It wasn't doing this type of thing, this brand new ability, this new mechanic, but it was a pretty impactful cut, mainly because I feel like the Asta was a raid target. I believe it was a double energy generating Asta. I don't think this Yahiko being cut is going to be that impactful, especially because both of the red decks, all the Kenshin decks look insane, but I don't think that this card being cut, the Yahiko that was the 2-cost, I can pull up the Japanese version actually. Here we go. Yeah, it was this card right here. Yahiko, if there are no cards on your area, reduces cards cost by 2, and it was just a step with an active trigger 2500. Obviously a great card that I'm sure most, if not everybody, was going to include in this red deck. But yeah, he wasn't like a raid target that got cut, and on top of that, I think the Kenshin deck is going to be the one that looks like super broken, and I don't think he was really going into the Kenshin deck, at least from the builds I was looking at. So yeah, as far as that cut being super impactful, I don't even know why they really did it. I guess obviously for balancing reasons, but it was only in red. Keep that in mind. On top of, so with all that said, there is going to be this brand new mechanic it looks like we're going to start getting in probably most of the newer sets, where yeah, there's going to be this 1/2 cost in every single color that is going to have this mechanic that costs 0 if you have no cards on the field. Pretty cool. I really hope it does help with not feeling this need to run 11 minimum zeros just so you can play the game. And they're going to be 2 costs, so they'll have some pretty solid effects and stuff and stats. This is a color trigger, and on top of that, they even gave it to, this is an SR from the blue set that has the reduced cost to 0. So yeah, it's going to be really cool to see down the line the balancing that they do for Union Arena in this aspect, as far as making it easier to actually play the game, because I'm sure we all know, if you've been in that situation where you sit down to play a game, go into locals or whatever, and you literally just don't see a 0 to start and you can't play the game. You just watch your opponent stare into your eyes and, you know, have sympathy for you. But with all that said, let's go ahead and start taking a look at the red Rurouni Kenshin cards. So yeah, starting it off with the starter deck here, the main SRs you're going to be picking this up for, the starter deck exclusive SRs are going to be this raid Kenshin card here. 4 costs. Also, I should mention this, all of the Kenshin cards are going to have this very unique ability. You're going to see this on every single Kenshin card except one. During your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to their energy line instead of being sidelined. So it's going to be really interesting. Your opponent's having 4 cards on their energy line. If they do want to block to save a life, they're actually not getting that card sidelined. They're going to have to remove a card on their energy line if it's full. With that said, your opponent's also going to be able to free block stuff. Instead of getting sidelined, they can just get moved back. And if they have like an open slot on their energy line, and then just push up. So there's going to be pros and cons to this effect for sure, but overall I think it's going to be more annoying to your opponent. Anyways, this Kenshin is going to be a raid impact, and then when played, you actually get to choose one character on your opponent's front line and move it to their energy line. So you're literally going to be able to fill up your opponent's energy line and force them to remove cards, which is going to be a lot more annoying for certain decks that play out of the sideline when they have to decide what card's getting removed, because it can't be a card that's a crucial piece that they want to play out from their sideline later. It's going to be, this card's going to change everything, this whole mechanic for sure. It's going to be really interesting. But yeah, it's a raid card, 4k BP, and I mean, raiding this card out of life is going to be pretty solid too, saving your life a little bit by forcing an opponent's blocker back, and going into your turn, you force an opponent, a character on the front line from life. It's going to be a great card. There's also this other starter deck exclusive SR, Karu, I believe, Karu Kamiya. I haven't seen the anime, but the cards look crazy and it looks broken, so I had to check it out. At the end of your attack phase, if none of your opponent's characters were sidelined this turn, you may switch this active character to resting. If you do, draw a card, and you can only activate this ability once per turn. Even if you have 3 of them on the field, only one of this ability can be activated per turn. And then it also has a when played, if on the energy line, you can place a card from your hand into the sideline, so you can switch to active, basically just so you can get the effect rolling the turn you play her. But yeah, draw trigger, 2 energy generator with a 3 cost. This card is going to be really good in just helping you essentially get a free draw at the end of every attack phase, since again, with most of the Kenshin cards, 99% of the time with this deck, we are pushing their cards to their energy line when they block, when they lose a battle, instead of getting sidelined. So yeah, really, really interesting mechanic we're going to see in this game. But yeah, keep in mind with the starter decks, you only get 2 per starter deck, so if you do want the full 4 of each of these, you're gonna need 2 starter decks. Also, generally with the layout of how they do these cards, starting with this Karu Kamiya card, all of these cards are going to be starter deck exclusives for anybody curious. Whereas these cards here, they do come in the starter deck. They're just essentially alternate arts. You can get the same card with the same abilities from the main set. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, anyways, we've got this other 2-cost Kenshin card here. During your turn, this character is going to lose 1000 BP. So he's a 2-cost printed 4K blocker on your opponent's turn. Pretty great card to have. You can raid on top of him later, of course. That's another really interesting thing about the Kenshin deck is you're going to have Kenshin is going to be like 95% of your deck. It's all just Kenshin cards, which is so good for raiding. And then we have this 4-cost Hajime Saito. When attacking, you may switch 1 character on your front line to resting. If you do, this character gains impact. With the draw trigger, 4K BP. Pretty good card to have, especially with this Sanosuke, I believe that's his name. This other deck that you're going to have instead of the Kenshin deck in red, where you're having this character who, as you'll see with this card, you can rest him, but then he gets set to active if that's the case, essentially. So it'll make more sense with the effects here, as you'll see. 4-cost Sanosuke, 2 action point. Play this character set to active, and then if on the front line once per turn, when this character is switched to resting by one of you or your opponent's abilities, you get to switch this character to active. So with sticky resting, it's going to be nice if your opponent like sticky rests this character, like with the yellow trigger. This ability won't necessarily stick him active instantly, but it'll get rid of the sticky rest right away, which is awesome. And then when played, this character gains your opponent must block this character's attacks if able until the end of the turn. Which, if you don't know with that, the second that you choose that character, or the second you attack with this character, your opponent has to block right then and there. And then on top of all that, he's got a when played, this character gains your opponent must block this character's attacks if able until the end of the turn, so you've got some extra removal as well. Active trigger, 4K BP, and as you've seen with this card here and the other cards from the main set that play into the Sanosuke deck, there's a lot of like risky, a lot of like resting and manipulating your opponent's front line. It's going to be a really, I think both of the red decks are going to stand out. All of Kenshin is going to be so good. And then we've got this 3-cost Tei and Subeme. When played, look at the top of your deck and then place it on the top or bottom of your deck. Active trigger, 3K BP, double energy generator. Generally, we see one of these in every single starter deck, but I don't think they've generally had effects, so that's a nice little touch that we're getting now. Power creep is officially hitting in UA. Also, if you don't know, this is one of like the newest sets in Japan. I believe this released like just a few months ago. Same with Full Metal Alchemist and One Punch. Those are like the newest sets in Japan that we have gotten. And then some other cards in the starter deck here. 0-cost Yahiko, Nullify Impact, 2K BP, no trigger. And then we've got this field card here, this Sight 2-cost Kamiya Dojo. When played, switch to resting, draw a card, and then trash a card with an add-to-hand trigger. I think this is actually a pretty nuts Sight card to have, especially because the deck is playing a lot into like draw power, and I mean just in any deck, having a Sight card that you can tap every turn to get a free draw trash, that's pretty wild. And then the last card here that I would highly recommend picking up the starter deck for, this starter deck exclusive 2-cost Sakabato. Oh man, the mispronunciations in this are going to be rough. I'm so sorry. Draw a card and then choose 1 Kenshin on your field. It gains when attacking, draw a card until the end of the turn with a draw trigger. And as you'll see in the main set that we're about to dive into, there's actually a raid Kenshin that attacks twice, so you can get this ability off 2 times. Yeah, the draw power in this deck is going to go pretty crazy. And then just looking at some other cards here that you get in the starter deck, but they do exist in the main set, just so you know. We've got the 0-cost Karu When played, draw a card and then trash a card with a draw trigger or generic 0-cost draw trash. 2-cost when played. If on the energy line, you may place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. If you do, switch this character to active, and then active main switch to resting. You can actually choose a character on your field, and it gets 1k BP till the end of the turn. So it's essentially our generic 2-cost 1k buffer every turn by switching her to resting. But now we've got this added bonus where player on the energy line, we can trash a card and switch her to active that turn. Pretty, again, the power creep you're seeing in these new cards, the buffs that they're doing to balance it all is pretty dope. And then active trigger 2k BP. And then we've just got this 1-cost Sanosuke, active trigger 2500, great for raiding on top of later. 1-cost Tsubame. This is our generic when played. Return a card on our field that's 1 or less to hand, or we have to return her, but a double energy generator. 0-cost Megumi. When played, choose 1 other character on your field. It gains 1k till the end of the turn with a draw trigger. Again, pretty generic cards that we've seen in most of the other sets, but yeah, they do exist. 2-cost Megumi. If active, you generate 2 energy. And then we've got a 0-cost Kenshin with Step, and then of course the during your turn Kenshin ability. With the add to hand trigger 2k BP, this is a great 0-cost raid target to have later. Our final for the red Kenshin deck is 3-cost Oath Not to Kill, our AP restander. And funny enough, we're actually getting the 2 different final cards like we did with the, I think it was Purple Black Clover that got that. Yeah, we're gonna, so you can have 2 different choices for your final cards. But as you'll see with the Kenshin deck, you actually want to run Oath Not to Kill. And then 4-cost, our special Ryutusen. Ryutusen? Oh man. I remember in Jump Force, this is the one place I first ever saw Kenshin, and he would spam this ability. I remember him saying it, Ryutusen. Anyways, however you say it, 4-cost, choose 1 character with 5k or less on your opponent's front line, move it to their energy line, and then if Kenshin is on your field, you can actually place it on the bottom of their deck instead. So great special trigger to have, always targeting a 5k, getting that move to energy line option, but also being able to bottom deck, our favorite way to remove cards at the end of the day. Yeah, all around a fantastic special. And yeah, that is the Rurouni Kenshin starter deck. Yeah, red and just all of the Kenshin set is looking pretty insane. So yeah, I'm gonna probably have to dive into it a little bit just to have one really good deck. But yeah, the starter deck looks really good. On top of that, real quick, if you guys don't know about Union Arena in general with how the starter decks work now, on top of all of the starter deck exclusive red cards, you actually get a promo pack too, and in the promo pack you'll get 1 of each of these cards here. So keep in mind, if you do want to play blue or purple, there are going to be these exclusive cards that we'll dive into more in those breakdowns, but these 4 are restricted to the starter deck promo pack. Keep that in mind. And yeah, so you would essentially need 4 promo packs to get the full 4 playset of each of these 4, but I would just get 2 starter decks and then pick up the individual ones that you need from there. No need to buy 4 starter decks in my opinion. But yeah, taking a look at the main cards in the red Rurouni Kenshin set here, we're essentially going to have 2 decks that we're trying to build. Taking a look at the first deck here, the Kenshin deck. Obviously, there's going to be starter deck cards that you definitely want to pick up, starter deck exclusive cards, but this is going to be the main card here that kind of displays what the deck is doing. But yeah, all around, the deck is completely based around Kenshin for the most part. Every single Kenshin card, -1, is going to have this really interesting ability. During your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to the energy line instead of being sidelined. So there's going to be pros and cons to that. If your opponent's energy line is open, if there's any free slots, they can just block, lose the battle, get pushed back, and then push up next turn. But if your energy line is full at any point and your opponent's Kenshin is forcing you to push a card back into your full energy line, you're then going to have to remove a card. So this Kenshin is essentially, you know, it's going to hit a point where he's actually removing cards straight up instead of sidelining. But then you kind of get this power as the opposite player to choose which cards are getting removed. All around, it's going to be really annoying to deal with, because on top of that, he's got other cards in the deck just outside of attacking where he's going to move them to your energy line and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be pretty nasty. There's a lot of draw power in the deck too, and on top of all that, we'll obviously break down the cards one by one, but I did just want to mention that there is this one Kenshin card here. He does not have the during your turn, and if I've seen the anime, I'm sure I'd understand it. Let me know if you think I should dive into it. I was trying to watch the dub, but the way the dude speaks, his mannerism, I think, at least in the dub, yeah, he's like, what does he say? He's like, that you are. He kept saying that you are after like every sentence or something like that, I swear. Either way, maybe I'll check out the older version. It was the remade one. That's a whole conversation. Regardless, we've got this 4-cost, 2 action point Kenshin. He's not going to have the during your turn ability where he pushes cards back. And on top of that, you can actually use this ability to remove your final card, Oath Not to Kill, and then you remove that during your turn ability from all of your Kenshin. So this, I don't know if there's definitely going to be situations where you want to just straight up sideline stuff, obviously, rather than move it to the energy line, I'm sure. But all around, yeah, that is going to be a funny surprise for people that don't see it coming. So yeah, that's what the final is, Oath Not to Kill. Anyways, that's how that whole deck's going to play. It's going to be pretty nasty, again, with draw power, this Kenshin being able to get double attacks off. We'll definitely dive into that in detail in a sec, but we've also got this other deck here, the Sanosuke deck. Again, a deck pretty much all based around one character, which really helps with like raid targets and stuff like that. Sanosuke, it's really interesting. This deck is going to be playing around a lot of like resting your own cards, but then those cards that are rested have abilities where they're actually set to active. A lot of like swapping cards on your energy line to your front line. All around, it's going to be a really strong deck. I believe this card's going to have some sort of like a force block, but if you do block, he gets impact. Again, we'll dive into it in detail when we get to him after the Kenshin deck, but yeah, really, really cool looking decks that I think are going to definitely shake up the meta, no question. I don't think there's any question. These decks look really strong. And this is just red. But with all that said, let's go ahead and dive into the Kenshin deck here. So 4-cost raid Kenshin. He's of course going to have this during your turn ability, where if your opponents lose a battle, they're going to go to the energy line instead of sideline. He's going to be a raid. When attacking, just once per turn, you can actually place one card from your hand into the sideline and then switch him to active. So he's basically a double attacker. And he's also got when played draw, so that he can sort of make that first one free, air quotes. And as you'll see with all the other cards in the deck, there's ways to make this really strong, get extra draws out of this, reduce the amount of cards you have to discard, essentially. All around, it's going to be a really gross card. 4K BP, active trigger, or raid from life trigger, so honestly, if you do want to raid this card from life, no problem doing it. You get a free draw and maybe a block. And then, yeah, we'll take a look at the only Kenshin card that does not have that during your turn ability. It's a 4-cost, 2 action point. Play this card set to active on your field. When played, draw and trash a card. And then active main, if on the front line once per turn. You can place one Oath Not to Kill card from your sideline into your removal. Again, that's just your final AP restander. If you do, draw a card, and all of your Kenshin cards lose during your turn abilities until the end of the turn. Essentially, now they can actually sideline stuff. Man, I'm sure this is a crazy moment in the anime. I cannot imagine. The cards definitely make it seem like that. And then we have this 3-cost Kenshin. Oh, and if I even mentioned it, he's an add-to-hand trigger, 4K BP, so all around a great-looking card. You just have 2 of him floating around for a surprise. They're not going to the energy line. 3-cost Kenshin, Nullify Impact. This will be our color trigger for the set here. During your turn, your opponent's characters that lose to this character in battle move to their energy line instead, obviously. When played, you may place one card from your hand into the sideline. If you do, switch this card to active. So with the 4K BP, just going to be a really, really nice pressure card. Putting on pressure to your opponent. And with the draw power, trashing a card is not going to be that hard at all. And then, really cool to see, I mean, it's crazy to see because the whole deck is just Kenshin. There's actually 2 0-cost Kenshin cards that you can put in and a 1, so raiding is going to be no problem in this deck. 0-cost Kenshin, he's going to have the during your turn ability, no trigger, but he's got 3K 0. Crazy. Let's see. Then we have this Kenshin here, 1-cost, the during your turn ability. When played, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Kenshin among them, add it to your hand, place the remaining at the bottom, and then trash a card if you took one. With the active trigger, 2K BP, fantastic search card to obviously find your Kenshin raids or whatever you're looking for. And then our other 0-cost Kenshin card here, I believe this is the starter deck alt. Step, add to hand trigger, 2K BP. This is like our generic Kenshin raid target, essentially. But yeah, the fact that there's 2 zeros is just crazy. With a 1, again, raiding is going to be so easy. Then we've got this really, really strong looking 2-cost Karu card. If Kenshin is on your front line, this character is going to gain an extra energy generation, so double energy generator at a 2-cost. Getting that out super early can be really strong. And then active main, once per turn, you can only activate this ability the turn this character is played. Choose a Kenshin card on your front line, and it'll gain. Your opponent cannot choose this character with abilities unless they place one card from their hand into the sideline as an additional cost until the start of your next turn. And I believe that's actually going to play into trigger abilities, since with Saitama, he's can't be targeted or removed by opponent's abilities, so I believe the specials would count by that. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I believe that'll also protect him from triggers as well, unless your opponent, of course, trashes an extra card, which could be some really good pressure. But all around, just a really, really strong card. And if you weren't sure, the reason it's saying the turn you play it, and it's not just when played, is probably because now you have the opportunity to play her out, generate the energy, so that you can get the proper Kenshin out to protect. So pretty cool to do that rather than just when played. That's crazy how you can balance this game and completely change how effects work with just a few words, but essentially it's still a when played ability. Really cool. But yeah, draw a card trigger with 2k BP. Great card you're definitely going to want to run. Then we've got some Karu cards here that you might want to run, but honestly, I would probably end up squeezing in mostly Kenshins for the most part. But if you wanted to, we've got this 2-cost, when played if on the energy line, place a card from your hand to the sideline. If you do, switch this character to active, and then active main, switch to resting, choose a character on your field, gains 1k till the end of the turn. So again, I mentioned this in the starter deck, but in case you missed it, it's really cool to see that they're sort of power creeping cards and balancing them. Essentially, we've had this 2-cost card in almost every set where it's an active main, switch to resting, buff a card by 1,000. But now I'm assuming we're going to see this in all of these 2-costs where we're going to get this added line of text where if they're played on the energy line, you can actually trash a card that turn so that you can set them active that turn. Because that was the issue. You'd play them out, you have to wait a turn to play them or to use that ability because you have to switch them resting. So yeah, it'll be cool to see this sort of power creep that they're doing to balance cards and make effects just more options when you're playing, I guess. Easier to get effects off and whatnot. Anyways, active trigger 2k BP, not a bad card at all. And then 0-cost Karu, this will be a great 0 to have when played, draw and trash a card. Draw trigger, usually try to squeeze those into most decks. And then we've got this addition to the Kenshin deck here that I missed, 3-cost Hajime. When played, choose 1 Kenshin on your field. It loses during your turn abilities until the end of the turn. With a draw trigger, 3,500. If you are looking for those benefits to not push your opponent's cards to the energy line, this could be a nice way to just get one of those off while getting a body on the field or something. But again, the less Kenshins you have, the less less raid targets you have and whatnot. So definitely choose wisely on who you're gonna cut for that. And then some other cards for the Kenshin deck here. This is a really nice looking event card. 2-cost Hiten Mitsurugi. Choose 1 character on your opponent's front line, switch it to resting. And this is a... We saw this with the blue Ichigo deck. When this card is placed from your hand into the sideline by an ability of a red Kenshin card on your field, draw a card. So this is going to be a great event card to have in your hand for those Kenshins that are going to have to trash a card. But then that trash just turns into a draw, essentially. Again, the options you're going to have in this Kenshin deck are going to really, really help it flow. No triggers, unfortunate, but valid, I'd say. And then the special for the deck here, 4-cost Ryu Tusen. Choose 1 character with 5k or less on your opponent's front line, move it to their energy line, but if you have Kenshin on your field, which you will have Kenshin on your field, you can place it on the bottom of their deck instead. Totally up to you what you want to do, but at the end of the day, I think bottom decking a card is always going to be like the ultimate removal, since... well, there's only like a few decks, if any, one that really benefit from removal. Regardless, bottom decking is just the ultimate form of removal. They'll never see it again. And then that's pretty much it for the Kenshin deck here. Again, we do have the final 4 Kenshin that you definitely want to run, especially if you're running the 2 AP Kenshin. And yeah, funny enough, there's a different worded one for the Sanosuke deck, which I don't think he's targeting, and I absolutely can't let myself lose card at any point. Anyways, yeah, so that is the Kenshin deck. Obviously, these other red cards you might be able to splash in for sure, but all around, I mean, I think the deck is literally going to be all Kenshin with a few of these Karu cards, and I think it's going to cook. I think the deck is going to be so freaking good. But yeah, taking a look at the other deck here that you're able to build, the Sanosuke deck. So this is going to be our big raid card here, 5-cost Sanosuke. He's going to be a damage 2, impact nullifier, and this is an interesting ability. When this character attacks and is blocked, you may switch to resting 1 active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, this character gains 1,000 BP and impact until the end of the turn. With a when played draw ability, this is just going to be... so interesting, because you're going to swing with damage 2. If your opponent has a 5k, obviously they're going to want to block it for free. And if they don't know about this ability, you can just pop this, and now it's an insta remove with impact. So now you're not just getting a damage 2 off, but you're getting 1 life and removing. And Your opponent just really needs to make sure they know what your cards are doing, otherwise you're going to really surprise them. But on top of that, it's just added pressure. Like, it's almost like a damage 2 your opponent just kind of has to let go through now. And again, on top of that, there are a few Sanosuke cards in this deck, mainly the starter deck exclusive, that if you switch them to resting, they just go straight back to active. So you might not even hurt that much from switching one of your cards to resting. He's also, when played, draw a card on top of all that, which is a nice little touch. And then, yeah, you can raid him out of life, which I don't see why you wouldn't. So yeah, really, really nice looking card here. 4K into a 5K with that ability. You can do some crazy stuff with that and really pressure your opponent. And then we've got this 3-cost Sanosuke. During your turn, this character is going to gain 1K, making him a 4K. And then if on the energy line, once per turn, at the end of an attack by a character on your field, you may place one card from your hand to the sideline. If you do, choose one character on your front line that has not attacked this turn, and you can swap it with this character. So yeah, this is going to play into some really, really nice turns where you can have him on the energy line to generate until it's time to attack, and then he can get up there and get an extra attack in for you. And yeah, it's really interesting that it's at the end of an attack by a character, so you can swing and sort of see how it goes, and then decide if you want to push him up or not, or go for the next attack. Again, you do have to swap him with a character that has not attacked this turn, so I'm assuming some of the best ways for that are going to be like maybe a character you've rested with an ability, like for example with this raid card, you can rest a card that's not going to restand and then push this guy up, so you're still getting that extra attack off. This deck's gonna really pressure some people, and Red Kenshin is just gonna be so good. I already know. 4-cost Sanosuke. When this character attacks and is not blocked, you get to draw a card. No trigger, 4K BP. I'm sure this will be a nice 2 or 3 of. I don't know if I'm going to put 4 of this guy in. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, basically we're trying to get as many of these effects off where we're resting cards, but they don't actually count as rests. And then we've got this 1-cost Sanosuke, active trigger, 2500 BP. It'd be just a nice raid target later on. And that's another thing about this deck and the Kenshin deck is you've got so many raid targets, so many really good raid targets. Also, the starter deck Sanosuke is going to be a great addition to this. We'll just read him now in case you guys, for anyone that did skip that. He's a 4-cost, 2 action point. Plays his character set to active. If he's on the front line once per turn, when this character is active, and you switch to resting by one of you or your opponent's abilities, you get to just straight up switch him back to active. And then when played, this character gains, your opponent must block this attack if able till the end of the turn. He's a 4K. Just the pressure in these decks is going to be so good. And then we have our 0-cost Sanosuke card here, our generic add to hand raid target later on. And then our color trigger for the Sanosuke deck here is going to be this 2-cost Yahiko. Active main, pay 1 action point once per turn, you get to draw a card, and this character is going to gain 1K till the end of the turn, making him a 4K. And then when attacking, you can place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. If you do, choose 1 character on your field that is not attacked this turn and switch it to active. So again, just playing into this whole playing card set to rested and getting to attack with them this turn, or resting your cards for an ability that benefits you, but then getting them back to active, so that never even mattered. This deck is going to be awesome. And then it does have the color trigger, like I said, not the best for red, but it's a color trigger, and he's a 3K. And then if you missed it earlier in the video, I did mention that he did have a 2-cost card that got cut, unfortunately. Let's see if I can pull him up. But yeah, so this Yahiko was unfortunately cut from the English version. I imagine we're going to get him not too far down the line, sort of like how the Ost is being added to like event packs or whatever, the participation packs that was cut. Regardless, the most important thing about him is just this new mechanic where he's going to be a 0-cost if you have no cards on the field, otherwise he's a 2. So yeah, unfortunately we do not have this in the red version, but there is the blue and the purple versions in Rurouni Kenshin at least to try out. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't take too long to get this card because I'm sure it's going to be a nice touch to have in the deck. But I don't think cutting that Yahiko is going to be the most impactful thing. I don't think it's going to like completely make the deck unplayable or anything like that. It's just going to slow it down just a little bit or something along those lines. And then we do have this 0-cost Yahiko that you can run, just an active trigger, 2K BP. Not a bad 0-cost at all to have. I don't think the Yahiko name is like required at all for the deck, so totally up to you if you want to include that. And then we've got this really nice looking 3-cost Sunon. When played, choose one of the following. You can choose a resting Sanosuke on your front line, switch it to active, or you can switch to resting one active Sanosuke on your front line, and if you do, choose one of your opponent's cards on the front line and switch it to resting. And again, if we do this properly, we're just resting one of our opponent's cards. This is also a double energy generating card with a draw trigger. I'm sure this is going to be a 4 of in most decks, especially because it is the double energy generator, since, you know, your raid cost is a 5, keep in mind, so you are going to need at least a few double energy generations to play him. But yeah, great card to have for sure. Then we've got our 0 cost Yutaro, active main, switch to resting once per turn. They'll generate 2 energy, but then you have to sideline them. Not a bad card to have, but I don't think it's required by any means. And then the last cards that are going to go into the Sanosuke deck here is this 1 cost Akibiko. It's going to be a sight card, a really good one too. When played, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 character among them, add it to your hand, place the remaining on the bottom. And then if you added any other card than Sanosuke to your hand with this ability, you place 1 card into your sideline. So you can grab any character, but then you have to trash one. But if you do grab a Sanosuke with this, it's a free grab, essentially, a free search. With the add to hand trigger, this could definitely be a good, like, 2 or 3 of. I wouldn't say this is like a fantastic 4 of, but it's also not bad either, especially because it's just a 1, so it's going to really help with the ramping. And then we've got this 2 cost, the single character of bad. Choose 1 Sanosuke on your field. It gains 1500 BP and impact until the end of the turn. It's going to be really, really nice giving that 5 cost raid, maybe impact 2 if you really want to, just so that if they are going for that block to live, maybe if they're at 2 life, you know, the impact block would save them, but in this case, it's going to be an impact 2 damage 2, or you could even give it to the starter deck exclusive one, so that he has your opponent must block this card if able, but he's also going to have impact. It's going to be really, really fun deck. And then you do have your own final you can run. You could run Oath Not to Kill, but I imagine this guy's on the opposite path of Kenshin, if I had to guess. 3 cost, I absolutely can't let myself lose. Choose 2 of your action points, switch them to active, or AP restander. It's really cool that they're doing that, though. And usually the finals don't actually play a role in the decks. We're starting to see it a lot more, though, like with Full Metal Alchemist and stuff. But yeah, they are just doing this, I guess, for aesthetic reasons at this point. Like with Purple Black Clover, I'm pretty sure that was literally just because, you know, villains and heroes. And then our special for the Sanosuke deck here, 4 cost, Mastery of 2 Layers. You can only use this card if Sanosuke is on your field. Choose 1 character with 5k or less on your opponent's front line and sideline it. You may switch to resting 1 active Sanosuke on your front line. If you do, place it into the removal instead. Depending on the deck you're up against, it's definitely going to be nice to have this as an option for sure, to put it into the removal, but for the most part, I think it's just nice that you're going to be able to just straight up 4k sideline something, or 5k sideline something. Now, this is interesting. It's the first special we've ever seen where you literally can't use it if you don't have Sanosuke. I think for the most part, we've seen them as like 2 action point cards, and then they get reduced to 1 if you have a certain character, but that's crazy. You literally cannot use your special card from hand if you don't have a Sanosuke. But luckily, this is going into a deck where most of our cards are going to be Sanosuke cards. Yeah, pretty interesting changes in all of the card effects. This is the first set breakdown we're doing for Rurouni Kenshin, and looking at all like the new ways they're balancing effects to make them a little bit more easier to play out, or faster to play out, more viable, changing up how specials work and stuff, or restricting cards, or yeah, it's just really, really cool. I love how Union's just always popping out new effects and surprising me with the ways that you can play the game. And yes, red is looking absolutely broken. Also, some other cards here that you could probably put into either deck here. 3 cost Megumi. When played, choose one of the following. Add 1 character with 1 or less energy from your sideline to your hand, or choose up to 1 character on your field. It'll gain 1500 till the end of the turn. I mean, not a bad card, especially because it's an active trigger double energy generator. So having these effects on top of just trying to get your ramp up, pretty good to have. 2 cost Megumi. This is going to be our generic. If she's active, she's going to be generating 2 energy, no trigger, but great way to get energy generated early. 0 cost Megumi. When played, choose 1 character on your field. It gains 1k till the end of the turn with a draw trigger. Definitely up to you if you want to try to squeeze a few of these in or not. I don't think either deck is desperate for BP buffs like this, but not a bad card to include if you do find the room for it. Then we've got this 3 cost Tei, I think. This is just going to be our generic. If there is a blue or a purple card on your opponent's field, you can actually reduce this cost by 1, making it a 2. Could be good in certain situations, especially maybe rare battles. Double energy generation early with a 3k. Not terrible, just no trigger, unfortunately. And then we have a 1 cost Tsubame. This is just our generic. When played, return 1 character on your field with 1 or less to your hand, and if you can't, return her to your hand. Again, not a bad way to get early energy generation, just a little bit risky, especially with no trigger. But yeah, all around, not terrible cards to include at all if you do need it. And yeah, that is officially every single red Rurouni Kenshin card that we are getting. Man, the red set is gonna be nasty. This actually might be one of the first sets where we really look into like counterplays and stuff, because I'm not gonna lie, Kenshin is looking really gross. And Sanosuke, man, just like the board pressure, especially the Kenshin deck, your 2 raids with so many raid targets, it's literally your whole deck. Outside of abilities and just BP numbers and effects and triggers, one of the biggest issues with a lot of decks, especially, for example, cutting that Asta that we didn't get in Black Clover, is raid targets. Bad raid targets, not enough raid targets, but when you're running a deck where your whole deck nearly is just one character, it really will change how the deck plays, I think, and it's going to be just a great addition on top of how broken the abilities look with the draw power. Like, red is doing everything. Multiple attacks, impact, draw power, removal, new mechanics, freaking just so much, dude. Board rushing, easy raids. All the raids from life are beneficial, so you might as well do them. So they're free raids. So it's crazy. I'm a little terrified for what's going to happen to UA after Red Rurouni Kenshin is officially out. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. If you guys got this far, thank you so much for watching. You're an absolute legend. Sorry for the mispronunciations with these animes I've never seen. I still want to dive into them and take a look at them, but some of the names are a little crazy. It's so funny also, side note, that this set is dropping alongside Hunter x Hunter. Both animes that I remember from Jump Force, really my first ever exposures to those animes, like heavily, was in Jump Force like 5+ years ago, and now they're dropping at the exact same time. Funny enough, Hunter x Hunter was an anime that I tried out a few episodes, didn't really like, went back years later, and is now like my top 3 animes. Very curious if, maybe that'll happen with Rurouni Kenshin. Maybe I just need to try a different version. Let me know in the comments if you're a Rurouni Kenshin fan. Is the dub 2020 remake a good version, or should I give like the sub 90s version a better chance or something, if I'm ever gonna watch it? But yeah, man, the way he was talking in that dub was I just couldn't do it after a few episodes. But after looking at these cards, this looks like a crazy anime. What is this about? Well, this card has just got me so curious. Oh man. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.